What up, everybody? Welcome back to Cafecito and Canes. Hope you all are enjoying your Sunday. Thank you all for all the likes and new subs for the video yesterday. I actually just crossed 2,000 in subscribers, so thank you very much for that. Thank you guys for the support. Let's keep pushing. Let's get this thing to 5,000. In the meantime, I wanted to come on today and give you guys my thoughts on the roster as it stands now going into the spring, because spring practice, it's going to start before we know it. I mean, this Wednesday is already February 1st. January is already over pretty much. So before we know it, spring practice is going to start. And just wanted to give you guys kind of my take, my preview of how we're looking going into the spring. For starters, I think there's definitely some serious upgrades to this roster. And I'm going to start with the defense. There have been some upgrades. There are areas of improvement that I'm excited to see. We still got a ways to go before we build this championship contender that we want here in Miami. We got a ways to go before that. And we got a ways to go before we have quality depth at every position. But there are areas we improved in, and I'm going to go position by position. In the meantime, again, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends, all that good stuff. So I'm going to start with safety. Safety is a position that overall performed pretty well. All right. Obviously, starting with Cam Kinchens, who is going into his junior year. He was a first team All-American, which is a huge honor. He gets his name up in the banner, up in the rafters with some of the greats like Ed Reed and Sean Taylor. So Cam Kinchens, we're expecting him to just build on that, honestly, and probably make himself a first or second round pick in next year's draft. So we're solid there. I believe we're solid really with our starters at safety with both he and James. I know James took, I don't want to say a step back, but James Williams didn't really take the step forward that most people expected. He was a 5-star recruit. He was the number 1 safety in America coming out of high school, 6'5", 224. He has all the athletic ability and all the physical gifts that you can ask for from a safety, and came this close to making some big plays during the season. But, overall, if you trust PFF grades and all those things, he had a decent year, but there were moments that fans saw that he missed some tackles, that he missed some plays. I think this is a pivotal season for James, and I think he still has the ability and he still has a chance to really show out and build his resume for the NFL draft himself. So I feel great about the starters at safety. Now, the depth at safety, that's a little concerning. We had a lot of departures, and, these are departures that I'm not going to say would have provided quality depth. Honestly, I don't think they would have. I wish them the best wherever they go. But, overall, I don't think it was guys that were going to contribute a whole lot. However, I do believe that these departures made some room for new guys, for new blood to come in. Thing is, we got to bring that new blood in. We didn't have a chance to bring in any safety help to provide depth during this, during this period before spring semester started for the portal. But, you still have the summer, you still have the fall. They still have a chance to bring in 1 or 2 guys that are experienced to provide some depth. And I hope they do. Because right now, aside from your starters, you got Brian Balaam, who entered the transfer portal and then withdrew his name from the transfer portal. So officially, he's on the roster right now. I've heard different things. I don't know whether or not that's going to stick. Assuming it does, that would be great. I think he's another guy that could at least develop into a decent backup and provide that depth we need. And then, of course, you got Markeith Williams, who he's stepping into that pivotal sophomore season where most players see their biggest jump as a college athlete from their freshman or their sophomore year. Obviously, Markeith needs to put on some weight. He's hovering around, $175, $180, something like that. He needs to hit the weight room, put on some weight, and he should be ready to go. I'm assuming by the fall to get some serious reps at the position. And I think we're going to have, assuming Balaam sticks around, and then, you got Caleb Spencer coming in as an incoming freshman. I think we're going to have a decent 4-man rotation at safety. Assuming we don't have any issues with injuries, I think you're okay with that. But just in case, you got to add at least 1 more guy. So that's the safety position. Overall, solid. assuming nobody gets hurt. So we'll see what happens there. Next group, corner. So cornerback, this is a position that has struggled for a very long time at Miami. And I mean, I'm trying to remember the last time we had a great corner tandem. I think I may have to go back to the Al Golden days um, when we had Artie Burns and Corn Elder at safety, guys like that. Tracy Howard had that one good year in 2013, but I'm trying to remember after that, and I honestly can't. Corey Couch had a great season in 2020. He really hasn't duplicated that, but he is now moving back to that slot corner position that I think is better suited for him. The reason he was able to do that is because we've brought in a couple of portal additions. One being the young man from Iowa, Terry Roberts, and then you got Devontae Brown, the older brother of Damari Brown. So, you bring in some quality experience there and some quality depth. Devontae Brown, I think, is an instant starter. He has enough experience. He has the size at 6'2", 185. He can match up with quality ACC receivers. I'm not saying he's going to lock anybody down. If he does, great. But I think he has at least the skill, the experience, and the size to match up with most good ACC receivers. So I think we're okay there. And then on the other side, definitely Terry Roberts. He's a little undersized, but plays very, very, very hard. He has great work ethic and rarely gets fooled on plays. And he also plays good man coverage and good zone coverage. So he's very versatile. Because of that, I think, honestly, he ends up being the starter. That's my early prediction, but we'll see what happens. The good thing is you got some key players coming back, like Jaden Harris, who was a true freshman last year, put in a lot of work that the coaches liked. You got Chris Graves, ditto, same thing for him. Don't sleep on this guy, Malik Curtis. This is a dude that I'm very excited about because he's he's got elite speed, elite quickness, and as soon as he could put it all together, I think he could be an all ACC caliber corner, but he has to put it all together. This is a crucial year for him to do that. So I think you got numbers. As far as proven depth, not so sure. That remains to be seen. So you got those three young guys. If they take a step forward this year, that'll be massive. That'll be hallelujah. Thank you. And then you got veterans into Corey Couch and Daryl Porter coming back. So those five guys, plus the transfers coming in, plus Damari Brown, superstar, true freshman out of American Heritage that we're all looking forward to seeing. And let's see who else we got. Antoine Jackson, he's a touch younger than everybody else. We may not see him right away. Also, he may end up playing safety later on. And then who else? And Robert Stafford. So you got numbers. Let's see if they can prove it on the field. Let's see if they can earn their stripes early, because they're going to have to get developed quickly. So I'm excited about the possibilities for the corners. I think the ceiling is high, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot of uncertainty there too. So that's the cornerback position. The next position, as I scroll through the roster here, all right, linebacker. This is a huge plus for this defense because we definitely flipped the roster when it comes to this position group. Now, if you remember last year, I, like many other, pundits and YouTubers and all the guys that talk about, the Canes 24/7, is we all thought that the linebackers would take a step forward last year. The linebackers and the offensive linemen. That did not happen. Unfortunately, the coaching from experienced guys like Kevin Steele and Charlie Strong, who've been in the game forever. Charlie Strong knows linebackers as good as anybody. That alone wasn't quite enough. There were still culture issues. There were still personnel issues. There were still a lot of guys that weren't, super athletic guys that, they were asked to, be in drop back in coverage and make plays in the passing game, which they were just not suited for. That's not really what Manny Diaz recruited. So you saw issues there, and they were glaring. But, and injuries too. Let's not forget that. But we have a lot of key additions. Let's start with, he's not an addition technically because he started last year towards the end of the season, but Wesley Besaint, you're going to get him back. This kid is a star in the making. If you happen to catch those last few games, he jumps off the screen. His ability to hit, his closing speed, his range. He's a guy that can really he could really cover like drop back into zone coverage and cover the passing game. So he can do it all. He's a touch undersized. He's not a thumper as far as, stopping the run and things like that, but he's great at shooting the gaps. He's a slightly bigger and more athletic Sean Spence, in my opinion. Think of Wesley Basaint that way. On the weak side, he's going to make a ton of plays. And then you got Corey Flagg coming back. He was, like it or not, he was our most sure tackler last year as far as the linebackers go. He's a guy that can provide experience, depth. He's a good locker room guy. Nothing wrong with that. That's the kind of depth you want behind the middle linebacker position. And the good thing is he's probably not going to be starting at middle linebacker. It's probably going to be incoming transfer Francisco Mauigoa. Francisco Mauigoa, 6'3", 230, has a ton of experience. He's the older brother of stud incoming freshman Francis Mauigoa, in my opinion, the best left tackle in the country. And Francisco made a lot of plays last year, good PFF grades. I think he had 60-plus tackles. He had a few forced fumbles, like 3.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss. So roughly, those were his stats last year. He had a 95-yard pick six. And again, another guy that can drop back into coverage. He can stop the run. He can kind of do it all. So he's that solid piece that you can plug and play. You can put him in at the mic, kind of set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it. And that allows the other young guys to roam free. Other young guys coming in, Malik Bryant, Bobby Washington, Popo Aguirre, and Marcellus Pulliam. Nice haul. Malik Bryant probably is the highest rated of all of them. I believe he's the highest rated. He will probably slot in at that strong side linebacker position, in my opinion, maybe eventually move over to the middle. But he is the highest. He's the highest rated guy that I see. And then you got Popo Aguirre, who also I think he could kind of play all over the field, can cover the pass, can stop the run. He could just make plays. Two guys with solid size also. Malik Bryant, I think, is like 6'2", 6'3", in the 220, 230 range. Popo, I think, is like 6'2", 215, 220, something like that. Right away, you see an increase in size. I've been used to, for the past 4 or 5 years, linebackers that are 5'11", maybe touching 6 feet, 204, 205 pounds, and struggling to put weight on. I'd rather bring in the guys that are 230 coming out of high school and are fast and athletic than bringing in a guy that's 204 that used to be a safety and having them bulk up to 235. It's just they're not used to carrying that much weight. No offense to Keontre Smith, but he's another key starter coming back. That's a guy that had to, he did a good job of it. Kudos to him, but it's tough for guys like that to just have to put on that weight and play a position they're not used to. But Keontre Smith, overall decent player. He's fast, and he can also provide some experience and depth, having played a year in this system now. Sorry for the background noise. I think there's a helicopter outside my window. Let's see. Keontre Smith, Chase Smith. He can come back from his injury. I've said it before. That's a guy that could be a star at Miami, again, if his body cooperates and he doesn't get hurt again, because him missing all that time last year, that is costly for a player. You kind of lose out on that development, that on-field experience. But he's been working very hard. Very smart dude. He wants to major in industrial engineering, so super smart guy. Also, he put on that weight, but for him, he told us in an interview back almost a year ago that he put on that weight, and honestly, he felt even more explosive. And I believe it, because he is a very explosive athlete. If you want to see what he's capable of, go back and watch his high school tape. That's kind of the X factor for me. If Chase Smith can come back fully healthy and can contribute with all these young guys, Popo, Bobby Washington, Malik Bryant, plus Wesley Basaint, plus Mauigoa coming in, this linebacker group can really take a big step forward. Okay. Again, I know I said that last year, but I really believe it this time, because last year we didn't have the players. We just had improved coaching. I thought that would improve the play. It didn't really, but now we got the players that fit that scheme. So let's see what happens. I think we're taking a big step forward with the linebackers this year, and I think we're going to do a solid job stopping the run. So As for stopping the run, let's move on to the defensive line. Now, the defensive line position, let's start with D tackle. The defensive line position overall, I think, saw the most improvement last year. I think we can all agree with that. So great job by Coach Salavea, Coach Jason Taylor, Coach Rod Wright, all did a bang up job last year with those guys. In addition to that, though, they had help. We flipped that entire position group. Okay, guys like Nesta Silvera left, and we injected new blood. We brought in like Hakeem Mesidor, um, guys like that. I can't think who else off the top of my head. Oh, Jake Lichtenstein, who made some plays early in the season, but then he got hurt. That was one of those key injuries that hurt us later in the season. So, you got Leonard Taylor starting it in all likelihood. I don't see anybody unseating him as the starter. He's a all ACC caliber player, potentially All American if he takes another step forward as a junior. In my opinion, he has just as much ability as, say, a Cam Kinchens or a James Williams. He was the number one D tackle coming out of high school. Insane tape coming out of high school. Carries 300 pounds very well. He doesn't look like he has an ounce of fat on him. He's between 6'3" and 6'4". Again, 300 pounds he has a lot of moves in his toolkit, and he's poised to have a great season if he could just be a little more consistent. I don't think he had the consistency issues that maybe Nesta Silvera had, all the talent, but you saw it in spurts occasionally. I think with Leonard Taylor, you saw it in more spurts, but I want to see him put it together for like entire games. I think the game you saw it the most might have been that Virginia game that we won 14-12. I mean, he was making play after play after play. He was probably the player of the game that day. So Leonard Taylor starting. The other guy will either be Jake Lichtenstein or Jared Harrison Hunt. I don't see any of the other guys like Branson, Dean, Thomas Gore coming in. They don't do a ton for me as far as, oh man, that guy you can slot him into the 2 deep rotation right now. Those guys are more back end of the rotation kind of guys. They're probably going to play some special teams. They're probably culture pickups that, they work very hard. They're a good example. Those guys are important too, obviously. But as far as backups, that's another position where I love our starters, but we're very thin. We need to add 1 or 2 more guys. I know there was that recruit, Jamel Howard. I don't know if, I think he was visiting this weekend. I don't think he's made an announcement or anything. I think we would have known. But that's a guy that comes in 6'3", 320 from the Chicago area. Crystal balls point him to Michigan or possibly Illinois, places like that. But if Miami can make a push here late, I mean, we're his last visit, so that's always good. If Miami can make a push late and land him, that's a guy along with maybe like Josh Horton, even though they're very young, that can maybe get into that 2 deep and at least contribute. That plus maybe 1 more portal guy would be fantastic. So they still have some work to do at D tackle there. But another X factor, a guy coming back from injury, Jake Lichtenstein. If he can come back and put together a solid season, I think he's in his 7th year now of eligibility. The dude's a grown man. You can see the playmaking ability there. It's just different from a lot of the other guys when he's in there. So that's going to be a huge X factor if Jake can get healthy. So let's see who else. That's D tackle. Obviously, we lost Daryl Jackson. That hurts a lot because he was slated to be the starter next to Leonard Taylor. And you lose a few other guys like Hay and Moultrie and Jordan Miller, who provided at least decent depth. He's gone. He had good size and all that. So let's see what happens there. There are some question marks at D tackle for sure. Defensive end, though, I'm a lot more excited. I'll start with a guy that I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Hakeem Mesidor. Huge acquisition last year in the portal, and he decided to come back. That I can't tell you how massive that is for this defensive line. He can move in and out, so he can kind of play both positions. He could fill that 3 technique on certain downs, or he can come off the edge, and he does a great job setting the edge as well. He's probably the best on the team at that. So you got him. You got Nigel E. Kelly coming back for his sophomore year. Again, a guy from that 2022 squad that can take a massive step forward. I see postseason accolades just all over the place when it comes to Nigel E. Kelly. I'm very excited about him. In his 2nd year, I think he's going to make some noise. And then you got Cyrus Moss, who we haven't heard a lot about him. He didn't play too much last year. He's a guy that had to put on weight, really hit that weight room, hit that nutrition plan. He didn't really get many quality snaps. I think he got in there early in the season against the Bethunes of the world, and that was about it. But if he can take a step forward, he was our highest rated recruit of the 2022 class. So Cyrus Moss is a big one. Let's see what happens in the spring if he can show the coaches something. Chance Williams, Jafari Harvey, both had their best seasons as Hurricanes, in my opinion. Solid veterans. They're decent. They are what they are. They're not superstars, but they'll fill that role nicely if they can improve a little bit more. Awesome. And then let's see who else. You got incoming. You got a few studs coming in. This is where we did some of our best recruiting this year. I'll start with Collins Chiapong. Collins, developmental guy, 6'7", 248, 250. Still has to put on a little bit of weight. Played basketball a lot of his high school career. So he's still developing into his body. You might not see a lot of him this year. Or you might. He might surprise you. You never know. And then you have, besides Collins, you have, hang on. Why am I blanking right now? Rueben Bain, of course. Rueben Bain and Jaden Wayne. I'll start with Jaden. Jaden Wayne has drawn comparisons to Kayvon Thibodeau. He's not bad. So Jaden Wayne is, at one point, was a 5-star recruit, dropped to 4-star. I don't know what happened there. But he, in my opinion, is a 5-star quality, 5-star caliber defensive end. 6'5", 250, 260, has the ideal size that you want, the speed, the athleticism. Jaden Wayne is the total package. He can contribute right away. People kind of forget about him because, all the attention was with Rueben Bain towards the end and whether or not he was going to stick with Miami. Jaden Wayne committed back in July. It was so long ago, and it was such a safe pick, and it was kind of just, he joined the class, and that was it. You didn't hear any noise from him after that. But don't forget about Jaden Wayne, man. He's going to make some noise this year. And, of course, you got Rueben Bain. He will slot in nicely in that 2 deep. You can move him around. You can try different things, experiment with him. Because, remember, he's kind of that awkward size. He's not very big. He's 6'2 and a half, 245, 250. Some say he might be even shorter than 6'2 and a half. But you can't ignore his production. He set records in high school. I actually put a post the other day, and he commented. Ruben commented and corrected one of my stats. I inadvertently put 57 sacks for his career. It was actually 77 sacks. I think it was 57 the last 2 years. That's what it was. I digress, though. It doesn't matter. The guy put up insane numbers. He is just a savant at getting to the quarterback. I think a lot of that has to do with his unusual wingspan for not being very tall. His wingspan, and he uses that to his advantage because he understands leverage. Very smart. He's very balanced, very confident young man. He knows whoever he goes up against, he can swim past him. He can bull rush them. He bull rushes guys bigger than him, which is amazing. So the only time I saw him struggle just a little bit was in that IMG Central game earlier last year. First half, he lined up at defensive end right up against Francis Mauigoa, and Francis, for the most part, shut him down. He's on our team too, so that's cool. But then you move Bain inside to D tackle. He lined up against another guard that's playing D1. I think he lined up against a future Gator commit, if I'm not mistaken, or someone who eventually committed to the Gators. And he just swam and ripped and bull rushed past anybody they put in front of him at the D tackle position. He was the best player on the field in the second half of that game. So I'm very excited about D end. Just to recap, I am hopeful at D tackle. I'm hopeful they can add more guys, but I'm a little concerned with the depth there. Very excited about linebacker. I know they're going to be kind of young, but I think they're going to make a lot of plays. Think 2008, 2009 when we brought in guys like Spence and Marcus Robinson, dudes like that. They came in early, but they were making plays. And then you got the safety position, same as D tackle. Like our starters, I need more depth. I really need more depth. And corner, a lot of question marks to say the least, but I think the ceiling is pretty high for them. I think, especially with those young guys like Graves, Jaden Wayne, Jaden Harris. Again, Malik Curtis, do not forget about him. Do not count him out. I think he's going to make some noise in the spring, and he's going to wow some people. If that happens, This defense, I think, will be in decent shape against the ACC Coastal. I see this defense really not being top 20 or anything like that, but, probably like low 40s, upper 30s around there as far as like national ranking. I could see us taking that step forward. It doesn't, it's not that hard with the talent we're bringing in to go from bad or mediocre to decent. I think we take that step this year on defense. Well, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll be dropping more content later this week. If I'm not mistaken, I believe tomorrow at 7 p.m. on the ACC network, they will drop the ACC schedules. So at that point, we will know Miami's official schedule because we already know the non-conference games. I believe we kick off against Miami of Ohio. Then we got Texas A&M, that big non-conference game to, in week 2 to kind of kick off the year. And then I think you got Bethune-Cookman, and then Temple, and then the ACC schedule. So we'll know those next 8 games tomorrow. So that'll be fun to watch. Anyways, I got to go. Go Canes. Have a great day, everybody.